I can still remember vividly smelling onions from 1 million miles away. That was my first cue to being pregnant. But I had to do something to confirm. So I remember also staring at that test, waiting, counting seconds, trying not to assume anything. And then it was positive. Hi, I'm Lydia. This season I'm sharing the quiet transitions inside marriage. And this was the moment another one began. I remember where I was, what time it was, how my body felt in that moment. I remember the mix of excitement and disbelief, and almost instantly my mind jumped into wow, baby names, due dates. What would this mean for our marriage? It was quite a lot in one simple moment, but some of the most vivid ones were just how I had reactions when I was pregnant. The first thing, until I've had a total of probably 5 pregnancies to date, and each of them, the first signal is just my heightened sense of smell. I was living in London at the time. If you listen to my previous episodes, so once I got married and my husband went back to his duty station with the army in Afghanistan, and I was left in Kenya after only 10 days after our marriage, I also went back to London to finish my first master's degree. So I didn't know what happened during that time, but all I know is a few weeks later, maybe 6-7 weeks later, these signs were very, very clear. Very clear, like, oops, here we are. We are now pregnant. And I did, yes, get the first sign, but I just thought I was being extra sensitive. I lived in a college dorm, so I had my own room, and we shared. Each floor had about 4 different kitchens, so each kitchen was shared by about 7-8 rooms. So they were structured in a way that they were in corners. The rooms were in, I don't know, maybe 4. Each floor had about 8 times 4 rooms, so about 32 rooms in one floor. So every 8 dorm rooms there was one kitchen to be shared, and so we shared this 8 of us. And I remember it was early in the morning and I could smell someone cooking from the kitchen, and my room was like the furthest from the kitchen, and I was like, is someone cooking right outside my door? That was like very, very weird. I could smell absolutely everything, and the onion just nauseated me extremely. I had to cover my nose, and I was wondering what was going on. Of course, at that point I'm a little bit older and I understand this might be a sign of, but it still did not hit me that was the sign. So I remember going to the kitchen, and yes, someone was cooking. So it was this confirmation, okay. And then I started wondering, why didn't I feel the same way? Because we've been cooking the whole year round. How come this is the first time I'm really sensitive to that smell? So something, just some curiosity, and I go and buy a pregnancy test. And lo and behold, as I said, I'm just waiting, I'm looking, I'm like, is this possible, is this not? And it comes out positive. I didn't believe it the first time. I waited for about another week to test again, but just the simple fact that I couldn't even get myself to the kitchen to go and cook for myself, because the first time I tried cooking, I think the day after I was going to cook for myself and cutting those onions and then putting them onto the pot and turning on the fire, the smell, I couldn't handle it. So I told myself there's really no chance that this is not it. I was like, okay, I better just believe what it was. And as it is in London, in UK, the healthcare system is national. So you have to call and you will then be given an appointment. And most of the time, if it's not an emergency, the appointment comes after months. So guess what had to happen? I had to call an ambulance, because for me, I thought, oh, if I don't confirm this now, and if I don't get to start seeing a doctor now, I don't know what's going to happen. So call an ambulance, I'm taken to the doctors, and for sure it's confirmed that I am pregnant. And so I'm put on the roll to see a gynecologist, the regular scheduling of a pregnancy. The first few months is not like as the cadence is not as close as the towards the end, like the third trimester. So I think I was meant to see a doctor probably 3 or 4 months later, if I'm okay, or if I remember that correctly. So I go back to the dorm, everything is just fine, and I go about my business. And what I thought for sure is that pregnancy, as I believed, would anchor me. Because remember, in my last episode, I talked about how I really felt destabilized and lonely in some moments. And I thought that motherhood would settle that uncertainty that I had been feeling deep inside. What I didn't know is that pregnancy doesn't remove vulnerability, it actually introduces it. That is when everything now comes to light. All the questions you've been asking yourself, they are now even more obvious. Not like obvious, but there's almost like there's an emphasis on them. Are you going to be able to provide for this child? Where are you going to live? What kind of life do you want for them? A lot starts happening inside you. As I'll say this because I'm a woman, that's what I can relate to, that's what I know. Your mind just flies into so many different things. But what I know is, and what I remember, is feeling a sense of extreme joy. I was so happy, and I thought, oh, finally. We have been doing a lot of long distance. And I was craving for something that would create that bond across oceans, seas, the phone, everything, that we would find something to talk about all the time, to, what baby names, clothes, cribs, even though we knew things were not, settled and were not going to be settled for a while. It was just, the imagination running and feeling some sort of excitement that, oh, this is a moment that we're going to share together. This season is just going to be, a different season, and we are going to be bonded, things are going to be happy, and everything will shift. Well, everything started shifting inside. There's no doubt about that. Everything really started shifting inside. And I think that's the first time in my whole life that my brain was not thinking only about me. I knew I was married, yes, but this is a different kind of, you feel a sense of responsibility, you feel a sense of stewardship, if you know what I'm trying to say. You feel a sense of this is mine. Like, oh, I have life inside of me. The first time I felt that, the heartbeat. Unfortunately, I was alone. Well, not really unfortunately, it was just our circumstances. I was alone. But just hearing that, I remember closing my eyes and just feeling that, and how fast it goes. It was surreal. It was like, oh my god, this is a piece of two people who are now going to become one. Like, both of us have contributed to making this someone who is yet to come. It's, I don't know what other words to say, but I can tell you that what I understand now is that becoming a mother starts long before you hold a baby. It starts with hope, and hope is powerful. But hope is also tender. It is tender, and hope is fragile. And hope keeps you alive. But it's like an egg that is like an egg. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I didn't know then how much I had already attached my identity to that positive test. And I didn't know how quickly everything could change either. And that's what I talk about next. If you've ever experienced a mix of excitement and fear that comes with early pregnancy, I love to hear your story in the comments. And if this season resonates, please subscribe and come back tomorrow. I'm sharing this journey intentionally in order, one chapter at a time. And I hope to see you in the next one, where I share the day everything shifted.